and welcome to Lynchburg Live. I'm your host, Linda Smith. On April 1st, the Hill City Channel's production studio will be closing its doors. This is very sad for a number of reasons, and this will mean the end of Lynchburg Live. So tonight is my last show. Instead of having a guest tonight, I decided to do a retrospective of the last 6 years of Lynchburg Live. In May of 2009, I was just 3 weeks out from finishing chemotherapy for breast cancer when I was given a chance to do Lynchburg Live. I saw it as an opportunity to get the word out to women everywhere about early detection, mammography, self-exams, because in my mind I know that these things save lives, because mammography certainly saved mine. My first show that May, I included 2 guests who were also breast cancer survivors. And we'd all heard statistics and discussions of diagnostics and treatments. But what I wanted to do with that first show was to present a show interviewing real women with families, children, careers, professions who had been diagnosed with breast cancer and had gone through treatment, and I wanted to present how it impacted their lives as real women. At the end of that show, I signed a 1-year contract to host Lynchburg Live, and the rest, as they say, is history. In addition to my original goal of getting the word out about causes and issues such as breast cancer awareness, my plan was to find and interview interesting people who are ordinary people in the Lynchburg area who did extraordinary things. In the beginning, my husband said he wasn't sure that I could find enough people in Lynchburg to keep this show going, and I was not sure either. But after nearly 6 years of Lynchburg Live, I never had a problem finding an interesting guest in the Lynchburg area. Lynchburg is so full of really, really interesting people. And as Lynchburg Live is coming to an end tonight, there's still so many interesting, extraordinary people out there that we could have interviewed. I've attempted to do shows that have been varied and different in an effort to keep Lynchburg Live fresh, interesting, and diverse. I'm a retired operating room nurse. And I knew many people in the medical field who did pretty amazing things outside of medicine, and we've had so many of them on the show. I've especially enjoyed having several local physicians and surgeons as my guests who use their own time and resources to travel to other countries, helping treat children with orthopedic injuries and deformities, providing ophthalmology clinics, repairing facial deformities, and we interviewed an optometrist who climbed Mount Kilimanjaro to raise funds for an eye clinic in a third world country where he volunteers his time. I've interviewed a local surgeon who was deployed several times to Iraq. I've had the pleasure of interviewing an anesthesiologist who is a semi-professional photographer, and another anesthesiologist who discussed sleep apnea and a condition known as anesthesia awareness. Lynchburg Live has highlighted very important causes and organizations like the Relay for Life, breast cancer awareness, brain injury, image recovery, Gleaning for the World, the Salvation Army, organ donation, Crisis Line of Central Virginia, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and the Presbyterian Home and Youth Services, and that's only to name a very few. Lynchburg Live has featured the Lynchburg and Amherst Humane Societies, animal fostering programs, and PetSmart charities. We were recently the first television program that was invited to come over and do a tour of the new Lynchburg Humane Society facility that just opened this week, and we were honored that we were invited to do that. We featured local celebrities, Tab ONeill, Darryl R, Tony Cam, Shawn Sublet, Noreen Turin, to name a few, on this show. We've interviewed a number of local authors and featured a local publishing house. We've also featured 2 local men who won Emmys for their documentary about Lynchburg's involvement in the Civil War. Our Lynchburg Live team has covered on location a polar plunge for charity, visited Lynchburg's Surgery Center and taken a tour, covered the Mysticon Science Fiction Convention for 4 years, toured the Mammography Center at Virginia Baptist Hospital, and been at the airport to greet a military mom and dad who were returning home to their children after deployment. We've met Civil War reenactors, kids who went to space camp, small clubs who raised funds for charity, a local woman who attempted to swim the English Channel, owner of a Christmas tree farm, a young Elvis tribute artist, kitchen designers, specialty construction companies, and met a Lynchburg forensics detective and a Lynchburg forensics nurse. And these are only a few of the areas we've touched with Lynchburg Live. As part of our attempt to keep Lynchburg Live interesting, informative, and unique, we've done a show on the bed bug crisis. We've interviewed 2 different groups of ghost hunters and brought you Santa Claus. So I have some pictures from previous shows that I'd like to show you. So Phil, if you'll put the pictures up on the screen, I'll tell our audience what this is. All right, these are the guests that I had to discuss the 48-hour film challenge that was done here in Lynchburg back in the summer of 2014. It was so cool that this is actually in Lynchburg, and it was a great show. All right, this is the Virginia 10 Miler, which is such a signature event here in the Lynchburg area. And we had the promoters from the Virginia 10 Miler come and talk to us. And that was a pretty cool show. So many people are having knee replacements these days that I asked one of my orthopedic surgeons that I worked with and who has also done a total knee on not only me but on my husband, if he would come and talk to us about the procedure and bring some pictures so people who were facing having a total knee replacement would have some idea of what they were going into. This picture is a picture of a knee that has the total knee components already in place. And I think that was a pretty cool show. This is Dr. Andrews. He is an orthopedic surgeon in Lynchburg. He and another surgeon take a full surgical team once a year to Mexico, and they operate on children with orthopedic deformities and injuries that otherwise would not have this kind of care. And this is the breast cancer logo and a picture. And being a breast cancer survivor, it's been very, very important to me to present a wide range of shows over the past 6 years during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We've had breast cancer navigators from the Pearson Cancer Center. We've had breast cancer survivors. We've also had a full range of doctors who have come on the show and talked about reconstruction, diagnosis, early diagnosis. We've had a radiation oncologist who's discussed radiation therapy. I wanted to use this show to make sure that women knew all the options that were available to them when they have this diagnosis. And one of the things that stood out with me when I went through this process was my surgeon told me, the first thing he told me was that breast cancer is no longer a death sentence. And after we did a Lynchburg Live and toured the mammography center at Virginia Baptist Hospital, I got an email from a woman in Missouri, and an email from a woman in Florida. And both of those women told me that they had been deathly afraid of getting a mammogram until they saw our Lynchburg Live show, and that it had taken the fear out of mammography for them. And one of those women told me that she wanted me to know that she had made her appointment for her first mammogram. So I feel like if we have done that and had 2 women who responded, other women surely must have also responded. And if we at Lynchburg Live were able to save any lives, then I think that our show has been worth every minute. This is Darryl R. Darryl, everybody in Lynchburg knows Darryl because he was a favorite columnist for the Lynchburg News and Advance for many, many years. He's a friend of mine. He's an author. He's a local celebrity. And we were fortunate enough to have him come on the show as a guest, and I had the opportunity to interview him. But he also came back a second time in 2013 and acted as guest host for Lynchburg Live and interviewed me when my book of poetry and prose was published. So Darryl is one of the most delightful people we know, and we've enjoyed working with him on Lynchburg Live. He also did a 2-part series on our channel several years ago. This is Sarah Dunstan. She's the woman that I mentioned earlier who attempted to swim the English Channel 2 summers ago in August. And she told me when I asked her to be on the show, what if she was unable to swim the channel? What if she didn't make it? And to me, I told her the thing that we were interested in was that she went out there and tried. It's such an inspiration to all of us that she went out there, and she was 59 years old at the time. So it was, I just wanted to show what you can do if you really try. This is two fellows here in Lynchburg who put together a documentary on Lynchburg's role in the Civil War. It's Greg Starbuck on your left and Andrew Price on the right, and their documentary actually won Emmys for them. They won 3 Emmys, and I thought it was so cool that somebody in our immediate area had been that successful, and I wanted to have them on the show. And we did a 2-part show on their making of their documentary and on their receiving the Emmy for that. This is Taylor Rodriguez. He's an Elvis tribute artist, 17 years old, who started developing an interest in Elvis Presley when he was 8 years old. And he has continued with that interest and has turned it into something that could end up being a profession for him. He's still in high school. And he performs locally, but recently he's been invited to perform all around the state and out of state, which is wonderful for him. And we had him on the show back in the fall, and we found him to be, actually it was earlier this year, we found him to be very grounded and still a kid doing high school stuff, but really dedicated to doing a respectful performance in tribute to Elvis Presley. This is the first artist rendering of the new Lynchburg Humane Society shelter. 2 years ago, we had the director, McKenna Yarbrough, on our show, and they were so excited because they were getting ready to build this facility. So this is the artist rendering. The facility just opened last week. It's everything they hoped it would be, and Lynchburg Live was invited to be the first television program to come and do a tour. And we toured the facility about 2 to 3 weeks before it opened, and we felt so honored to be invited to do this. It's a wonderful facility. I don't remember this little girl's name, but this is from the first class of young entrepreneurs in the Lynchburg area. Tony Cam is part of the reason that this got off the ground, and he's very much involved in this. And what they do is go into the schools and find kids who have ideas for businesses, and they take classes at night, and they're given an opportunity to explore their ideas, to try to set up a business. It's sort of like Shark Tank. There are some people who will be willing to back them, and they're given an opportunity to try this. This little girl's business was making cupcakes, and I think this program has grown and continued on in the Lynchburg area, but we were the first people to cover this. This is Natural Bridge. I got really interested in Natural Bridge because the new owners have taken such an interest in bringing Natural Bridge back and the resort part of it back to what it used to be in its glory days. And we enjoyed having the CEO as part of Lynchburg Live, and he brought some wonderful pictures, and they really are doing some amazing things. These women are from Woodruff's Cafe and Pie Shop in Madison Heights on 130. And lots of people have known about this. They make excellent food. They have excellent pies. The store has been there forever, for years and years. And they suddenly became nationally known when Southern Living did a little piece last summer, about their pies. One of their editors had heard about this and sent somebody down here to do a piece for Southern Living on apple country. And they stopped by and had pie at this wonderful pie shop. And they became overnight sensations. And the day that the article came out in Southern Living, they suddenly couldn't keep up with production of pies. So these people were delightful to interview. Relay for Life is one of the causes that I feel very strongly about, because it's survivors and caregivers getting out there, walking to raise money for cancer research. Relay for Life helps people locally who are struggling with cancer. The funds mostly are kept in the area. I go every year to the Relay for Life because I feel compelled to be there. But Lynchburg Live has covered one entire evening at the Relay for Life. And we just wanted to say, look, these people are exceptional people. Support them. So that was a joy. And this is my friend Sal Lizard, who's a professional Santa Claus. In 2013, 2013, he was kind enough to take time away from his job as Santa Claus and come all the way here from Georgia to do my Lynchburg Live Christmas show. And Sal has also written a book called Being Santa, and it has sold tons of copies. He's toured all over the country promoting the book. It's a wonderful book, and I was just so pleased to be able to actually have Santa Claus on our Christmas show. This is Shawn Sublet. I'm sure if you watch Lynchburg Television, Channel 13, you'll recognize him as the chief meteorologist from WSET, and he's recently left Lynchburg, but he was a guest on the show, and while he's very professional on the WSET weather, we found out he had such a terrific sense of humor when we had him on the show, and he was a delight. And this is one of the pictures he brought for us, and I just love his humor. I hope he does well in his next endeavor. This is a student that Heimdall Science Fiction sent to Space Camp. They're a small club that does fairly extraordinary things in raising funds, sponsoring 10 charities locally, and sending a local middle school student to Space Camp annually. So this is one of the children that, well, she's a middle school kid. She was 14 years old. This is one of the students that the club sent to Space Camp, and she's in one of the Space Camp simulators. And this is Tab ONeill. Most people in Lynchburg know Tab because he's been on television in many, many venues, and he's a friend of mine and a friend of Lynchburg Live's, and he was kind enough to come on the show twice to talk about his television, what he was doing with television. He's an artist, and he brought some of the artwork that he's done and was showing. And you know, Tab is just a delightful person, and I appreciate the fact that he was willing to come on and be my guest twice. Okay, we at Lynchburg Live have met some amazing people and done some very extraordinary things, which has been pretty exciting for a small local show. I've learned something personally with every show that I've researched and actually done. I want to thank everyone who has been my guest and made Lynchburg Live the success that it's been. I thank my production team and Phil Spinner especially, who took a chance with me as a television talk show host when I had really no experience other than I knew how to talk. And I especially thank those of you who've supported us by being the wonderful audience that you have continued to be. While I'm personally very sad to see this show end, I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to spend 6 years doing something that I have enjoyed every minute of. I have been truly blessed to do this. As we end this show, we're going to have some video clips from the past 6 years that I hope you enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show and the other 160 that have gone before it. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for watching. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Low block, red strike, take down, follow through strike.
That signifies that they're a survivor, and I believe it has survivor written on it. And it's always led by the colors of the flag. And they'll make one lap around this track. In the middle of that is my late husband, Alan, and some of our very dear friends who were on our team.
Became a sports writer with the Charleston paper and came up to Lynchburg as a sports writer, and started writing a column in '81. So
That's here in Lynchburg since '81. Where were you born?
In the lovely hamlet of Sanford, North Carolina.
I couldn't tell, you know, I can't tell. You lose your accent when you move from place to place.
I didn't stay there long, and I said my first words were, "Get me out of here."
This is part of our diagnostic hall. We actually have it in an L shape. This is our ultrasound hall, and the mammography is back that way. We have 4 identical ultrasound suites, all with brand new equipment, you know, state-of-the-art technology in terms of ultrasound and the transducers and capabilities. And we do a lot of breast procedures in these rooms. So these are some of our larger rooms.
Did they give you specific exercises that you had to do, like on a space mission team?
Not really. They told you what all the different positions were, and just a very basic what you had to do, and then they put you in the mission.
Our media guests of honor this year, and we are thrilled and proud that they were able to attend Mysticon 2012. Nikki Klein, who played Callie on the new Battlestar Galactica TV series, and of course, Mr. Richard Hatch, who was Captain Apollo on the original Galactica series, and he was Tom Zarek on the new Battlestar Galactica. And we are pleased and honored to have you here.
Camera here that I really think is cool. I'll just pull this out. This is one I got off of eBay and converted to an infrared. This is a tool that we use. It's just a little Sony, and I can walk onto a scene and see infrared. We use UV light. We use everything from a hammer to a bulldozer, whatever we need, metal detectors. Very commonly, we'll use fingerprint brushes and powders and the common things that you see on TV, like the DNA swabs and so forth. But my toolkit is endless, and when I need something I don't have it, we either rent it or find somebody that'll give it to us, whatever it takes to get the job done, cut out the evidence, remove the evidence, or carry the evidence, or dig up the evidence, whatever it takes. So the tools are endless.
Basically, what kind of investigations do you do?
Right now, we're pretty much limited to typical haunting situations or what people want to conclude as a haunting. We are very open to all kinds of paranormal activity, including, UFOs and cryptozoology and things like that. We all have a, different interest. But as far as what we actually investigate, just because it's an open field right now, and so many places are talking about hauntings and ghosts, and it's so mainstream and trendy right now, that's pretty much, where our niche is at the moment.
I'll tell you about a place in old Virginia. Lynchburg City is pretty okay. It's not a small town and it's not a big city. Lynchburg City is pretty okay. It's not in the mountains and not by the sea. Lynchburg City is pretty okay, but it's just 4 hours from big DC. Lynchburg City is pretty okay. Well, it doesn't have a lot, but most agree it's a pretty good city for a family. Got pretty good schools and pretty low crime and pretty good weather most of the time.